Alicia Gray turned her head mid-game, eyes locked on the crowd, and suddenly pointed. Within seconds, security swarmed the section, escorting a couple of stunned Indiana Fever fans out of their seats. On live television, it looked explosive, as if some vicious insult had been hurled at Atlanta's star. The broadcast cut away, leaving the impression of something serious, something ugly. But then the story unraveled. What started as Gray's heated gesture toward fans became one of the strangest and most embarrassing side plots of the WNBA playoffs. A moment that quickly collapsed under the weight of conflicting details and eyewitness accounts. Almost immediately, confusion spread. Some outlets hinted the fans had said something offensive. Others framed it as harmless heckling. And then came the witnesses, people seated near the incident, who swore the supposed insult wasn't even directed at Gray. One fan reportedly shouted encouragement to Lexi Hull. "You're good. Lex, she's not even trying anymore." Standard playoff banter. Nothing vile, nothing worth removing paying fans over. Yet somehow that harmless comment triggered a chain reaction, player frustration, a signal to security. Fans marched out of their seats, only for those same fans to be quietly returned later in the game with apologies, as if the whole ordeal had been nothing more than a procedural timeout to let emotions cool. That revelation flipped the narrative. If these fans had crossed a serious line, there would have been no return. Security doesn't escort someone back to their seat after abuse or threats. The fact that they did spoke volumes. It made the entire episode look less like bad fan behavior and more like a player unable to handle the pressure of playoff heckling on a night when her own performance faltered. Clips of the removal circled on social media, and within hours the commentary grew brutal. Fans mocked the inconsistency, some comparing it to earlier WNBA controversies where accusations hadn't held up under scrutiny. What began as a power move by Gray turned into a public relations misstep that backfired on the Dream. Meanwhile, Indiana thrived. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. On one side, Atlanta spinning distractions about fans. On the other, Indiana spinning the scoreboard into history, seizing their first playoff win in nearly a decade. Gainbridge Fieldhouse pulsed with energy. The Fever, down 5 players including Caitlin Clark, didn't just play, they dominated. Kelsey Mitchell buried 4 threes on her way to 19 points. Aaliyah Boston controlled the paint with quiet authority. Natasha Howard brought her signature toughness. And rookie Michaela Timpson added 9 fearless points in 9 minutes. Every role player rose to the occasion. The turning point came late in the third quarter. Boston muscled in a post score, then Shaw Petty jumped a passing lane for a steal, and with the buzzer ticking down, Lexi Hull launched a deep 3. It dropped. The crowd erupted. In that instant, the game tilted permanently. Atlanta never recovered, finishing with just 60 points, suffocated into their worst offensive showing in months. Indiana's defense forced rushed shots, contested everything, and boxed out like their season depended on it. It was exactly the kind of desperate, unified effort head coach Stephanie White had demanded after a sloppy game 1 loss. This time, there would be no excuses, no referee controversies. Just 40 minutes of controlled aggression. That's what made the Gray incident even more glaring. While she pointed fingers at the stands, the Fever pointed at the basket. While Atlanta's narrative fractured, Indiana's resolve crystallized. It wasn't about who was missing from the roster. It was about who stepped up. When Boston called it a defensive masterclass after the game, she wasn't exaggerating. They held the Dream's stars, Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray, to just 19 combined points. They turned Gainbridge into a fortress, where fans didn't just cheer, they became a force. And Caitlin Clark, though sidelined, was part of it. Clapping, shouting, standing after every defensive stop, she injected energy from the bench that rippled through her teammates. The Fever weren't mourning her absence. They were playing as if determined to prove they could still win without her. By the final buzzer, the scoreboard told the story. Fever 77, Dream 60, history made, a franchise reborn. For Atlanta, the optics were disastrous. Their star embroiled in a fan controversy that fell apart under scrutiny. Their team blown out on the road. Sympathy never came. Instead, fans and commentators saw a group rattled by pressure, while Indiana looked tougher, hungrier, sharper. Game 3 now looms as the true decider. 1 game, 40 minutes, survival on the line. Atlanta will return home desperate to erase the memory of that blowout, feeding off their crowd's energy. But desperation doesn't scare Indiana anymore. They've lived in it all season, injuries, doubt, controversy. And still, here they are, swinging back harder than ever. The formula is clear. Replicate the suffocating defense. Let Mitchell's scoring and Boston's control anchor them. Lean on Howard's grind, Hull's energy, and Timpson's spark. Do that, and this shorthanded team could flip the entire season's narrative on its head, because Alicia Gray's gesture won't be remembered for long. What will be remembered is Indiana snapping a playoff drought, fighting through adversity, and putting themselves one win away from advancing. What will be remembered is the roar inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the exclamation point three from Hull, and the resilience of a team many thought would fold without its star. That's the legacy being written right now. So as the Fever head into Atlanta, the question isn't what was said courtside. It's whether Indiana can repeat that same defensive ferocity in enemy territory. Can they silence the dream in their own building and prove that this resurgence isn't a fluke, but the start of something bigger? What do you think? Was Alicia Gray's outburst just a distraction from a bad performance? And can the Fever finish this series on the road? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're backing Indiana, type, "I've got the Fever." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of this story. The scoreboard never lies, and right now it's all Fever.